fence in all vacant lots owned by the University of Chicago. Now, as we look at our community and people buying up lots, or the city giving away lots, we want the lots to be fenced in. Share community plans, stated or unstated, with community residents. Well, we know that Washington Park is on the fringe of being gobbled. And I won't say it in a negative way. The reality is that we have a lot of vacant lots. We even have buildings that need to be rehabbed. And again, what everybody needs to be, if you're interested, is to go on the internet and pull up the Urban League's findings. You know, every year they come up with major. Well, they came up with a major piece this time. And it compares the African American communities in Washington Park. Probably we are in that bunch. And it compares the prices, the real estate prices. And the one thing that we didn't change in is that prior to the real estate prices, buildings that were unoccupied, they're still unoccupied, which is strange because most people have an up and a down, but we had a 0%, whatever that means. Provide Washington Park residents the same or similar benefits afforded to residents in adjoining communities, Hyde Park, Kenwood, Oakland, Woodlawn. What we found out is that in Beverly, that the University of Chicago had a program decades ago that they set it up that Beverly residents, that their property values did not change. Well, no, the property values went up, but their taxes stayed the same. Now, if they can do it there, I want that to happen to us, don't you? I mean, to keep the taxes the same and the values go up, hey, that's the best way. And if it's done anywhere, then I think we want it here. Retain the standards of the Chicago Park District and remove all signage from within Washington Park. If you notice, throughout the city, there's no signs in parks, except ours. And the signage refers to the University of Chicago. So when people have a concern about why the University of Chicago, that's one reason why the University of Chicago. And that's dealing with that signage. There's a big one, the biggest sign I've ever seen in a park, including if you go down Lakeshore Drive, about just as you leave Roosevelt Road on the lake, there's a sign about this big, and it only points to the 5 universities in the area, you know, and that's it. Here we got one this big from here to the ground that only gives directions for the university and several more. Set up a construction apprentice training program, resulting in the position of journeyman. What has been happening for a long time, and for our long-time residents of Washington Park, we know we have a developer in the community, and the developer's name is, what is it? I can't think of it for some reason, I forgot.
Washington Park Development Corporation?
No, not that one.
Okay.
No, it's a church. St. Edmunds, thanks, Lene, I forgot. I saw him, but I couldn't get his name out. St. Edmunds. They have been doing development in our community since the early 90s. And they're about to do a major piece now. I mean, we thought that last major piece a couple of years ago where they built from the ground up was big. But it wasn't nothing compared to the 2 corners that they have on 61st Street. that the aldermen of the 20th Ward gave them the land, and they have never done anything pertaining to an apprentice program. I mean, is anybody aware of it? I mean, am I misspoken? But I know what we did one Sunday, we had a silent march on this church. It didn't, you know, he sat down and talked to us, but he's never done anything. So this should be something that we need to be given to St. Edmunds perhaps also, along with the university, because they're in their major development phase. Support the creation of a green community co-op grocery store. Now, guess what? We said this November 9th of 2013. And guess what? We've started on that process, right, folks? We have, in fact, we even got a little grant for our grocery store co-op. And we have information over there about that grocery store co-op. We need all your support when it comes to that co-op. Through legal assistance and tax workshops, inform Washington Park residents about the services for maintaining current property taxes. We've talked about that. Here's another. Support the coalition to revitalize Dye High School and keep it within the public school system, and to create a free apprentice and vocational training program. Well, we didn't get the vocational training programs, but Diet School is staying within Washington Park. The one thing that we can be extremely proud of is that when we started the campaign as far as Diet, we found out that our children in Washington Park couldn't even go to Diet. We were not in the district. We said, wait, something's wrong with that. So I then started, I went to their public speaking discussions about diet. And the next thing I know, and it came through the 4th Ward alderman, because he sat on the Board of Education Committee, the City Council. And the one thing we can say about him, that he might not have did anything for those people that didn't eat, that were starving. He did bring Washington Park into the boundary of diet. So that we can be extremely proud of, because now it's going to be an art school. And with that, I'd like to introduce our guest of honor, Vice President of Civic Engagement for the Obama Foundation, Michael Strautmanis.
Good morning, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm great.
It's great to see you.
You too.
I appreciate all your guidance. First of all, good morning, everybody. Please excuse my attire. I made the mistake of deciding to start working out with a personal trainer this morning. Today was my first day, and I'm all messed up. You know, I need something to eat. I got my shoes, so I just apologize for that. What I would like to do with you this morning is introduce myself, tell you a little bit about me, tell you about what my job is and why I'm here. And this is going to be hopefully the last time I do more talking than listening. And tell you a little bit about the process that we're about to undertake. So my name is Michael Strautmanis, as was said. I was born over on 77th and Everhart. My mother was a school teacher at a general school over near Green. My father left before I was born, and my mother married and remarried a gentleman who was also a teacher at general school. He's an immigrant from Europe, and he didn't want me to see him as stepfather, so he adopted me because he wanted me to have his name. So that's how I got this long last name. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Brother, get this name. It's a really, I think it's a story that always inspires me as I think about, what love can do, what risk-taking can do. And so they raised me. I grew up here in Chicago. My mother actually borrowed money and went into debt to send me to St. Ignatius, the Catholic Jesuit high school, as you all know Ignatius. I went down to the University of Illinois, down in Champaign for college, and while I was in school, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I had a job downtown in the summer. I was fighting. You only do when you're a teenager, you don't think you're going to die. And as I was delivering packages, I would talk to people, try to find out what was going on in these offices. And I found out that one of these offices was a big law firm. And I said, I gotta get a job here because I could find out what lawyers did. I wanted to go to law school, but I only knew from LA Law and from the film strips about civil rights lawyers that my teachers had shown me in school. But I didn't actually know any lawyers. And so I got a job there, summer in between college and law school. And one day I knocked on the door of a young lawyer, and I asked her what she did, and she invited me in. I told her I was going to law school. Her name was Michelle Robinson. She was just an inspiration to me. She became a mentor of mine. She introduced me to her fiance. Fiance is hotshot young lawyer in town named Barack Obama. And they became mentors of mine. I started practicing law here in the city, but I wanted to get involved in politics. I had been inspired by Harold Washington. I remember I had my blue button with the streaks of the sun going up as I was going off to high school. And I wanted to just know more about politics, and so I moved to Washington, D.C. With my family in 1999. I worked there, and the president called me and asked me to join him when he got there for the United States Senate. So I've been on the president's staff since he was a U.S. Senator, actually since his Senate campaign. Well, actually all the other campaigns. Before that as well, but I was volunteers and friends. This time I was working for him. It's a little bit different. So I worked for him as chief counsel in the U.S. Senate, and my job in the presidential campaign was to do political outreach. And I would talk to everybody, because that's what I do. And I talk to people in the boardroom, and I talk to people in the barbershops and the beauty salons. I talk to people on the street corner. I talk to people in the prisons. I talk to people in the houses of Congress. I talk to everybody. And because I always feel like, there was a radio program I heard the other day, and someone was asking, where do you get your ideas from? And one person said, I get my ideas in the shower. Another person said, a long walk. Another person said, which I thought was strange, when they wake up from a nap on a plane, but everybody's different. I get my ideas from talking to people. I get my ideas from listening to people, what they want, what they hope, what they're mad about, what they're excited about. And so that's what I do. I did that in the Senate. I did that in the campaign. I then went into Valerie Jarrett as her chief of staff when she came into the White House, and I worked there for 4 years. I was in Grant Park, along with many of you all. I was there the first election. I was in McCormick Place, the second election. I was in the hotel. It was kind of late night. Woke up the next morning, looked at my BlackBerry, turned to my wife and said, I have 2 things to tell you. So one, I gotta go because the president wants to have a meeting tomorrow morning at 7:30 to get started. And 2, I can't do this anymore. And I was really, really tired. And there were also a set of younger staffers who I felt needed to come in and take my place. So I followed a dream that I had, and I literally went to Hollywood. I went to work for the Walt Disney Company as the vice president for what they call corporate citizenship. I ran philanthropy programs there. And I was, my mom's still here, my uncle, my family, my cousins, they're all here. And I my oldest son moved back here, so I was going to come back to Chicago and visit. But I have to say, I didn't really belong in Los Angeles. I found my family didn't belong in Los Angeles. And so as the work got started, as the president announced his foundation, he announced that he was going to build his presidential center on the south side of Chicago. He asked me to come home. He asked me to come home to represent him. He asked me to come home to listen. I have a very close relationship with him. He is my mentor, he is my boss, he is my friend. And I will tell you a secret, I like the First Lady better. You gotta edit that out. She is my mentor, she is my boss, she is my friend. And I am really here at the beginning. And I want to tell you what decisions have been made, because I want you to know that I'm here at the beginning to develop a working relationship with this community to make sure that we take full advantage of this opportunity. And I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to the folks at the Jackson Park. I'm talking to the folks all around the community. I'm talking to the folks at the University of Chicago. I'm talking to the folks in elected offices in the city. I'm talking to the business leaders, big business, small business. My job is to talk to everybody. And I will say the same thing to everyone. And I will listen to everyone. And you know, because I work for someone who got his start as a community organizer, I don't mind folks being upset, as long as they are about making a difference and doing something positive for the community, for others, not just for ourselves, but for others as well. And I guess the last thing I say before I get into telling you exactly where we are in this process, I feel like I was able to do what I did in my life because people who were older than me, even while I was, coming up, but even people generations before me made some decisions so that there were things that were there for me. Schools and parks and museums and I rode around on the CTA. I rode around on my bike. This city was available and accessible to me because people made decisions. But I think that my story, although I love talking about the things that people did for me, I'm a little too rare. There needs to be many more people, young at heart, who have the opportunity to follow their hopes and their dreams. And that's really what this is about. So, I got to figure out how to do this better. This is so. Let me tell you where things are. First of all, I just really have been so fond of her. We've known each other for about a month now.
Yeah.
And she just cares so much about this community, and so we're really lucky and fortunate to have her. So thank you.
To have all of us. Thank
I
you.
know.
And
That's what she does.
these are residents.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one or two might not be, but these are people that live in Washington Park. And we've been knowing, some of us have been knowing each other over 30 years, 25, 22. And we've been working together because of what, as we say, we get up together. So we're glad to have you. And I want you to know, as I told you, we meet 3 times a month. The advisory council meets once on Wednesday, third Wednesday. We meet the first Thursday and the third Saturday. You're welcome to come anytime.
Thank you.
And bring the president too.
We'll work on it.
Okay.
So let me tell you exactly where we are in the process. So the president and the first lady went through and selected these bids. Before the bids were selected, he established a foundation. The foundation's job, our mission, to create the Obama Presidential Center. That's our sole mission, and that is our job. That's not the city's job, although we're going to be working with the city. That's not the county or the state's job, although we're going to be working with the county and the state. That's not the job of the DuSable Museum or the University of Chicago or any other partners that we have, or your job. That is the Obama Foundation's job, and he is putting people in there. We're a very small operation. We have 6 whole people. 3 of us have been hired in the last year, in the last 3 months. And we're going to grow as we get started. But that is our role. So I want to be clear whose presidential center this is and who's responsible for creating the presidential center. It is the Obama Foundation, and he is very clear about that. And so as we're working together, and there's something that's going wrong, or something that needs to be fixed, you now know who to come to. It is, you can come to us. Now, everybody else has their responsibilities as well. And we are going to hold each other accountable, and we're going to hold all our partners accountable for that. All the partners that I talked about, the city, university, park district, and I think and the residents and the citizens, we all have our own responsibilities for that, and we need to hold each other accountable for that. So they created the foundation. They accepted the bids. University put together the winning bid. I have to, it's the south side of Chicago. It's the south side of Chicago. We have 2 sites. You all know that, Washington Park, a site in Washington Park, and a site in Jackson Park. I will tell you that when I took a look, because I know, I've never really actually looked at the map of the parks. I've just kind of been in them. When I look at the map of the parks, I'm actually very seized by the fact that with the Midway, they're actually, you could look at it as one park. And I think what's interesting is if, I always think about if I am, if I have 3 children, my wife and I, we have 3 children. And if we know that only one of them is still at home, if we know that only one child is at home, we make a certain amount of food. But if we think that all of our children might be at home, might be coming around, we're going to make a bigger plate. And I think, I'm starting to think that maybe we should sort of talk about this in a way that creates a bigger plate. Because what I'm concerned about is that some people may be thinking about this in terms of winners and losers. That if one site is selected, then the other site is out of sight, out of mind. And I'm telling the same thing to the folks at Jackson Park right now. I think that we should create an opportunity right now to force everybody, us included, to think about the Mid-South side of Chicago and what's going to happen in 2021, 2022 when the world comes. What are they going to see? Because they're going to come, wherever the park is, some are going to come down the Dan Rock. Some are going to come off the L. Some will come off the Lakeshore Drive. Some will come off the Metro. Some will come down King Drive. When they come here, what are they going to see? And I think that having that conversation right now is going to be important. That's where I'm starting. That's what I'm starting to believe after being on the job for only a month. So I may not know a lot. That happens to me all the time. Don't worry about it. I do it all the time. So they're down to 7 architects. They are talking to those architects. No plans. I want to repeat this. No plans have been put in place. No designs have been made. They have not chosen the site. They are talking to the architects, and they have asked the architects to explain to them what they would do looking at both sites. What are their values? What's the heart for the community? Do they just want to win an award, or do they really, want to do something? Do they listen? Do they care about what the president and the first lady care about? That's the process that's going on right now. So if somebody's telling you that the decision has already been made, and plans have been made, and other folks, developers and other folks are already, they don't know what they're talking about. Because, I work for the foundation. I have all the information. That is the situation that we are in right now. So this is really the beginning of the process. And so they're selecting an architect. They're going to choose a site. I expect that to happen, let's say, by this summer. So I think from now and between now and then, there are a couple things that I would like to engage this group, and Cecilia and I have talked about this in economic development, workforce development, all the things that make a good life. Who's responsible for all of those things? Where does that investment come from? I think we have an opportunity to create a table where we can start to talk about what this community looks like, as I said, in 2021 or 2022 when it's built. And frankly, that's really literally all I know right now, because we're just at the beginning. We've opened an office over on 53rd in Lake Park, over in Harper Court. Part of the reason why we've opened that office there is because the University of Chicago provided that office for us. So I want to be clear on what that is. They provided that office for us. We don't work for the University of Chicago. I do not work for the University of Chicago. They are a partner. They're an important partner and a critical partner, but they're a partner. Pick an architect, pick a site, and then we're going to you will see the architect and the design team. They'll be right here in this room talking to you all. We want to make sure that we have robust and strong participation in this project from people who live in this community. My understanding is that is something that people say, but when it actually starts happening, you don't always see the results. So I would love to get some information about how people kind of play games with that sort of stuff, so we can make sure that those games are not played, so we have strong accountability and reporting on things like that. So that's where we are. And with that, should I take some questions?
Yes.
I would love to answer any of your questions. And could you introduce yourself when you ask, please? Yes, sir.
My name is Corey Pugh. I'm a former state.
Stand up.
I live in I work with the Rock.
Yes.
On the state level, and then prior to that, when we were doing the Harold Washington stuff.
Yes.
So he's old. I'm older than him, but he's my mentor too. You talked about stakeholders.
Yes.
Where does the community groups fit in? Are they partners, stakeholders? And secondly, what role does those partners or stakeholders play in choosing the architect?
Right.
The designs.
Right.
And all of that.
That's a great question. Does anybody? So the question was, how do we see the community as partners and stakeholders, and how does that fit in, and what role does the community play in making these decisions?
And who are the other?
And who are the other partners and stakeholders? And so I would say that the responsibility for choosing the architect and for choosing the architect is the president and first lady. There aren't any other parties that are responsible for that. Now, we have stakeholders who have input into that because it doesn't, it's not just, the decision is not just about, although it's really important, the president and first lady's desires and sensibilities. This is going to happen in a neighborhood. And so I'll list just a few. So there are everyday citizens, individually. And there are different ways to communicate with them individually, through digitally, through comments, through hearing from them. Then there are community groups, and there are a lot of community groups. So I'll just name, there are community groups in, Brownsville and Quad Cities. There are community groups in Jackson Park. There's Washington Park Advisory Group. There's Washington Park Chamber of Commerce. There's, I mean, there are a whole, I don't think of the list I have as an exhaustive list, but there are these community groups. There are elected officials, so there's your alderman. These are all literally names of people that I've actually spoken to over the last five weeks since I've gotten started. And so what they are, they are partners, they have a voice. We want, for example, one of the things that I've heard is, and I know this obviously, but that it is very difficult for a high school student, for example, who may or may not be going to college, to find a pathway into a technical job to be trained, to be able to enter into sort of one of these good paying, high road union jobs, where they can get a career and raise a family. So we now, as we hear that, we know that that's one of the things that we need to try to address. But that is not something that we can get done alone. You know, we need to have students, and where the students are, so we need to be working with the schools. We need to be working with where they're going to be trained. We need to be working with who knows how to train them. We need to be working with where they're going to work, because this project isn't going to get started for a few years. What are they going to do to get trained now, so they can be prepared to do that? So they'll be partners in doing that. Obviously, government has a role and responsibility. So I see all of them as partners in this. And I feel like you're looking at me like I'm not answering your question, but I'm really trying to.
I was phrasing those questions to our last question, which
What's the role of this group?
the role of this group as it relates to our community benefits agreement.
Right.
And how do we get that implemented into the partnership that we've done?
Right. So the role of this group into that is, I believe the best way to do it, and I can be challenged on this. I believe the best way to do it is to set up a, whether you call it a coalition or a task force, in which this group is included in it, that has the different partners around the table who have the ability to implement the desires of the community. I believe that's the best way to do it.
The task force would be made up of all of the.
Well, I don't know who the task force is made up of right now, because we need to know what is necessary to get done so that we can make sure that the right people are at the table at the task force to do it. So we're very, I don't want to frustrate you, but we're very early, very, very early in this process. And I'm literally coming here for the first time to start to listen to all this. I guess the last thing I'll say is that there have been task forces that have been created and haven't done anything. And so I'm not interested in replicating that just so we can say, mollify folks and say, hey, we got a task force and we're done. So I think we have to kind of have a dialogue about that so that I can hear and make decisions about what's the best way to get this
Very
done.
last question. Did you change the name from President Obama to Presidential Center?
Yes.
Meaning that there's going to be activities?
Yes, so what's going to happen, and this is important, I know everybody's got questions as well. In the Obama Presidential Center, there are going to be basically three major functions. One, it will have the archives, the records, the papers. We want that to be, in the same way that the president is. Very 21st century, very open, very accessible to people so people can actually see it. Two, it'll probably have some sort of museum, tell the story of the president and the first lady, what they've done, where they're doing their journey. But we got to pull this thing forward. And so the third thing is there's going to be programming in the center as well. So it's right. It's not a library per se, because it's going to have much more than that happening. They want it to be a very integrated and alive place in the community. When I was in Los Angeles, I had a friend whose daughter lived near an art museum, and daughter wanted to go, literally said, he said, before you go, I want to tell you something. My daughter asks to go to the art museum every week to draw. And it's because she sees it as accessible for her, right? It's like someplace that she wants to go and be at. She's not trying to look at art. She's not trying to study art. She just wants to go and draw. And so I think having a place that is vibrant and active and accessible is going to be very important. I don't want to have they don't want to have some beautiful thing that people walk around and never go in. Or they go in once, see what happens, and they don't come back. I apologize, that was a long answer.
No problem.
The president does long answers too, I know you know that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, here's your personal copy
Thank you very much.
of our community benefits agreement that we, in this room, on November 9th, 2013, put together.
Okay.
Okay, so we consider you as the go-between to help us and the University of Chicago to work this out.
Well, I love that it talks about good neighbors, because that's what we expect ourselves to be, a neighbor. So I'm going to go man, woman, just so I don't get in trouble, yes.
Yeah, I have like two questions.
What's your name?
Oh, my name's Section. Two questions, and understand you might not be at the stage where these are like fully developed.
Sure.
But my first question is, seeing that there is a history of one of the partners, i.e. the University of Chicago, not being open to dialogue with the community members in Washington Park, what are you thinking are going to be the frameworks to actually open a dialogue, and how are voices going to be equal at the table? How are you going to make sure that like community members have an actual say that is equal to partners? Is this a type of dialogue where community members get to be equals as partners? And my second question goes to the issue of displacement of like poor folks in the community, especially renters, and has that topic been brought up? Are partners as worried about displacement from the community as community members are worried about it? Is that a topic that's actually on the table?
I appreciate that. So first of all,
Just one moment. This is our University of Chicago student in the problem.
all right. Congratulations on that. So I would not separate community and partners. People in the community are partners. It is sometimes more effective to work through community organizations like this, and so you will be at the table as a partner. But sometimes you need to, as they call it in the movie, I like one at a time, do a little one at a time. Because not everybody, as committed as you all are to be able to come to these meetings and organize, I also want to make sure that we have an opportunity here for people who are, for one reason or another, either don't feel like coming here is effective or worth it, or can't. And so we're going to need to find ways to get into the community itself. Now that may not, the Obama Foundation itself may not be the best entity to do that. We may need to work with students to do that work. And I think it's kind of interesting to think about in working with the community, training young people through that at the same time. It's one of the things that we did during the campaign. One of the reasons why we have a lot of young people who were really ready to take on leadership roles is they got their start knocking door to door in campaigns. That's how I got my start many years ago. So I wouldn't separate community and partners. Community is a partner. And I guess the only thing I would say about the past is that the past is relevant because we want to learn from it, but it does not hold us hostage. And I think one of the things that I am really committed to doing is understanding that a world-class global leader of the free world has decided to place, he and his wife decided to place their presidential center here. That has never happened. He has never happened before, and this has never happened before. And so I want us to, and I know it's difficult considering the past, but I want us to hope and dream a little bit too. And I think in dreaming about what can happen, I think we can force people to live up to and make those dreams real as come as close as possible. And so I am here at this early stage as proof that the community will have a voice. There is nobody except for the executive director of the foundation more senior than me in this operation. It is me, it is the executive director who reports to the President of the United States.
Who's the executive director?
The executive director is Robin Cohen. Robin Cohen is she's a real estate expert, business expert, and someone who needed to build the foundation a year and a half ago when we had no idea what we were creating or where we were creating it. And so, she's done a terrific job, and we're moving forward. So, as far as displacement is concerned, and gentrification and words like that, it is. I've heard it. I've seen it before. It is definitely on the agenda, and I think I'm interested in looking at and finding out examples where that has not, where people have created something amazing, special, transformative, but that does not happen, and that the residents that live around it are there when it's completed as well, and able to take advantage of it. We didn't want to. The President and the First Lady didn't want to have this in the Mid-South Side because they, wanted to pick up some fake Mid-South Side and put it. They wanted it in the Mid-South Side because they know this place. They know it. They love it. They want it here, and they want the people because they know and love the people here. And so that's the commitment. But living up to that commitment and doing that is going to be something we're going to have to do together. Yes, sir.
My name is Gary Foster, and I'd like to thank Michael for being here. And because we've been very blessed that you represent that, as you said, when we were growing up, we were trying to achieve. And I wanted to share with you and Ms. Butler. Actually, I am in the community too, but I'm the concessionaire that has a hot dog stand that sits out there.
Okay.
But also, I grew up on 53rd and Wells, and I live on 47th and King Drive in the Abbey Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I have something in common. We both went to Jesuit High School. But
We both have the scars and prove it.
I just felt the compassion that the young black men and ladies will get an opportunity. You know, we as blacks felt that the president hasn't given us anything when we deal with class struggles. And I really believe that right now, the people of Chicago will get some of that pie. Some of us have because we're upper middle class, because of foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
But, most people felt Obama was going to come in and write a check and make their lives different. Well, I mean, President Obama.
Yeah, it's all right.
But at the end of the day, we have you, because you're as close for us right now as dealing with the president as we might get until he arrives. And then that's a whole nother level, because now everybody got their screen and come in. But because you're the voice of both Washington Park and the president, I feel your compassion when you was a young man, that you really are sincere. We know politics is get the gab. But if you all in the room, you walk the field, that Michael is really going to make some changes. And our biggest change is education and employment. The housing probably is third, but because I grew up on 53rd and Wells during the time of Mickey Cottage and Jeff Ford, I was a bad boy. But my mom was a maid, and the white people say, he had to get an education. I'm sharing this with you because you can take bad and make it good. And I was very bad, okay? I'm 59 years old, but went to Parkland, ended up at DePaul, went to a Jesuit boarding school, and that changed me because of exposure. The little girl at the museum saw something.
Right.
So I'm telling the story just to let people know, if we bring change, you can help, not everybody, but some people that are hungry enough, they could grab and eat my uncle owned a $40 million electrical business. He taught me electrical. But I got a background in accounting from DePaul University. So I eat 5 different ways. And this is all about young blacks coming up. My only question I had was about volunteering.
Yes.
That's really the only question. Can we
Well,
volunteer?
yes, you can volunteer when we get it together, so that there's actually something for people to do. Because right now, this is what I'm doing. I'm literally starting this because, and I'm taking this all in, literally kind of writing reports like this is what folks are thinking about, this is what they care about, because we want that infused in the process of the beginning, and that is impacting what kind of architect, they're going to choose. It's going to impact a lot of the decisions that are going to be made over the next few months. So I appreciate that, and we'll get back to everybody with volunteering because we'll need it. I am going to go all the way to the back. I see. I'm going to the back. Yes.
This may end up being food for thought.
Okay. I need it.
There are those of us.
What's your name, man?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And I'm in the community. Sister Susan was a book. Okay? Now,
Okay.
there are those of us who are concerned about people who say they represent the Washington Park community and have managed in some ways to attempt to influence the development within Washington Park. And as you see, we are Washington Park. So, how will you be able to handle groups like that?
Right.
Where the reality is we are Washington Park.
I guess I'll answer the question this way, and I don't want to sound arrogant anyway, because I have a lot to learn. But I did work in Washington D.C. for 6 years, 8, 12 years, and during my time there, I saw a lot of foolishness. And I saw a lot of people who said that they were representing the community. And you can, I believe I can tell if you're representing the community or not by who you're speaking about, who you're speaking for. As I said, everybody has a self-interest. Everybody here has hopes, and then they have dreams. We have families, we have lives, we have things that we need for ourselves. But if that's all you're talking about, what's me? I know where you are, and there are things that we need we need to work with who have that perspective. But I can't talk to every single person who lives in Washington Park, and so I need to talk with people who are talking about we and us, and when they are talking, they're talking about the people who aren't in the room. And they're talking about the people who can't be in the room because, the healthcare is bad, or, they're struggling with, things that come along with addiction, or the impact of poverty, or et cetera, or poor transportation. And that's how I'm going to attempt to judge it. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep coming here. And that way you don't have to worry about other folks having speaking for you, because you'll be speaking for yourself. Yes, sir.
My name is Darrell.
You're about to make me stand up, yes. Oh, well then you should listen to her.
Yeah, I'm a current resident of Washington Park community. I just moved back after 10 years being away. I'm formerly a CPS music instructor / entrepreneur in terms of doing commercial endeavors, recording, performance around the world, so on and so forth. And I have 2 questions, basically.
Yes.
First, one of the questions the brother asked already, so I'm mad at you. about volunteer, because one of the reasons I became involved with the Washington Park Advisory Council was because I've always wanted to, I've been a part of some things that helped. And that was always a desire to see things grow in our community and, helping young brothers and sisters as they come along. Also, knowing my background, being in music, music instructor as well as a performer and recording, I went to Limblum Tech when it was Limblum Tech.
When did you come out of Limblum? You know Bill Bratton? Played football, he's a police officer.
Came out in 72.
You know Bill Bratton's my cousin.
Okay. Now here's the thing. I was a music major, and I basically, I was told that I had to score and everything, be a doctor, be a scientist, but I was basically always, since very, very little, into music.
Yeah.
If it had not been for my endeavors to stay in music, in my environment, I probably would have been dead.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying all that to say is everybody is not going to be a doctor, lawyer, a scientist. That's not what they're meant to be.
That's right.
Okay? Now, I've had, pretty decent life because that I went the direction I went. Now, my overlying question, what is the arts aspect that made me develop with this stuff?
I appreciate that because, one of the things I want to make sure that we do, and it kind of ties to what you said, is, one of the things that working in the Washington, D.C., I was into politics growing up, and, presidency is the pinnacle, right? And I went there and frankly got a crash course in all the things that you could not do. And all of the limitations in our system and in our culture right now. And so, I think that we need to, through this process, we need to hold everybody accountable, as I said. Everybody's got a role to play. With all the issues that need to be looked into on the south side of Chicago, on the mid-south side here, one presidential center, as beautiful and as glorious as it will not be able to address them. But it can be a catalyst because, a lot of folks will answer the phone when the president calls. And a lot of folks will come here and literally come into this room because I asked them to come in here with me. And so I think we should try to see as partners, that's why partnership is so important to me. As partners, how can we help one another to do more than we could do on our own? As great as the president is, he needs partners too. First Lady, they need partners as well. So, we're not building this is not going to be a huge, just to be blunt, a huge employer in this community. We're building a cultural institution. And I think an opportunity to have a cultural institution that brings arts and beauty and tells the story. If we surround it with the right partners, educational partners, employers, and the like, we can actually use this center as a catalyst, not just for kind of broad-based change, but also individual change. I'm a big believer in creativity, and it's one of the reasons why I went actually to work at the Walt Disney Company, besides the fact that I wanted to live in LA.
Dr. Ward Carter?
Yes, I do, yeah.
He's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, creativity gives people the opportunity to imagine beyond their current circumstances and then connect them to their God-given talents and gifts. And I think what has been missing, what you had, what I had, and what many of us had is somebody gave us a pathway to take the steps that we could take from where I am now, using my God-given talents to where I need to be. And right now, if you don't have a pathway and you have a vision and you have a gift, you are a recipe for frustration and anger. Because you have something that you want different and better, but you've got no way to get there. You know, if you walk into a classroom and your teacher assumes that you don't belong there and you can't do anything, you're going to get frustrated. If you want to, if you have to worry about, being safe, walking to and from your home, you're going to be frustrated and angry. And so I think one of the things I think we can have the opportunity to do really is let's try to find out and meet people where they are. Let's try to work with partners who have different pathways. I talked about a technical pathway earlier. There's arts pathways, there's scholarship pathways, there's professional pathways, so that people who want to be someplace different from where they are now know that's what the president means when nobody wants anybody given to them. They just want an opportunity so that they can do for themselves. And that really is letting people know, particularly young people know, okay, you know what, if you go here, you can go. Because right now, I could imagine sitting in a high school somewhere in this city and thinking, why am I here? I don't know anybody around me who's come through here, graduated, and is living a better life. Everybody around me that's living a better life than I have, right, are doing it on the side, right? And so I have people telling me I should be in here, but what do I see? And these kids aren't stupid, right? They people say, you could tell me a sermon or you could show me a sermon. They hear people, and then they see what people are doing and what's out there. And so I think, I didn't mean to stop preaching here. But I think that what we have the opportunity to do, and I don't know if we're going to have another, there won't be no other Barack Obama, but we're not going to have this moment again, right? We have about 4 or 5 years. It's a long time, but it's not. It will go by very quickly. To take advantage and set up the what's necessary so that when we're here, we're ready. We're ready. We've asked the right questions. We brought the right people around the table, and so we're ready to take advantage of that moment. And that's why I didn't want to be here, 6 months before the presidential center opens, talking about partnerships with the community. Right? I'm here now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can I save you for last? Is that all right? Okay, thank you. Please.
My name is Cassandra Geis. I'm chair of the executive council for the National Association of Color Clubs. My office lies here in the Washington Park community because I am here. First, if you need a partner, the NACWC is right there with you. We offer our partnership. My concern has always been about education, not just education for these young adults, but also for those adults who are falling through the cracks because of our combined situation. And with the programming that will come to the center, can you give us an idea of how the center will envision uplifting that particular part of the community, and perhaps how we can partner, all of us individually and collectively, with our organizations or not, with the center and bringing that about. Now, one last thing. I'm still going to lobby for it to be here because I feel like you got a high school here, you got a grammar school over here, and you have a community here that has been bereft of certain kinds of things. Now, I was born and raised in Woodlawn, so for me to say this means something.
Right. Okay.
But I do want to know about that education, uplifting education.
All right. Yeah. Well, and I will respond to the last point to tell you the same thing I told the folks, and will continue to tell the folks in Woodlawn, which is, if we need to raise some money to get some buses.
Okay.
To take people from Jackson Park to Washington Park, or to take people from Washington Park to Jackson Park. We got to do that.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that far away.
Yeah.
We have to, if something is happening in the Mid-South Side, in this area, and I know what you see, and I'm not trying to discount what you're saying.
No, I understand what
it's very meaningful.
You said that in the beginning.
But as I think about, as I talk about being prepared, that's kind of one of the things that I'm talking about. So I will tell you the good news on the programming and the bad news on the programming. The good news on the programming is what you're talking about, and having the partnership from an educational standpoint is available. The bad news on the programming is we have no idea what the program is going to be. So we need to create this together, and I think it's going to be a question about, well, where are the opportunities? What's the right thing to do? And I think one of the things that is going to be really important is this is going to be a global enterprise, and that is one of the things that is really exciting for me because it was very eye-opening to me going to Washington and realizing the only place I'd ever been overseas is my mother, when we were in 8th grade, took us on a trip to go see. Our people are from Jamaica, and some folks came to the U.S., and some folks came to Britain. So we went to go see her cousin, Bunny, in London. And she wanted us to have that experience, get on a plane, go overseas. And one of the things that's so interesting in Washington, being in Washington, is just seeing how much connectivity there is and interaction between the rest of the world and the United States right now. And I think actually one of the promises of having this presidential center is really bringing that right here. The world, I'm literally, when I tell you the world is coming here, I'm not being figurative. The world is coming here. How are we feeding that? How are we seeing that? And as you think about culture and you think about the wonderful things that are part of this country that have gone all over the world, many of them started right here. Many of it has started right here. And so how are we making the story around this neighborhood part of the story of a presidential center, so that people in the world can come here, they can see, okay, this is where blues came from, this is where the jazz came from, this is where the art came from, this is where the inventions and things who fix things came from as well. So I will take one last question because I love this guy. So we'll do that. What's your name?
My name is Jordan Tate. I'm back to education again. I know you can't really pick out the strengths of education, but since you kind of make sure that it's integrated education so that it becomes internal development.
Right.
Because as an educator myself, I know until it's internal, it doesn't become habitual.
Yeah.
And once it's habitual, we do it every day.
Yes.
So if that type of education is present, then we really don't have to worry about the longevity of that child's development, because it will happen.
Well, I guess I really appreciate this. I'll be back. I think the last thing I would love to say is, I'm a big believer in organizations and being organized and kind of making it easy for people to work with you. It's great to be here. You all are very well organized. But we could also get organized on our blocks. When I lived a few years on the north side of Uptown when I was a young man, and we had those block clubs.
Yeah.
And those block clubs really create that sense of ownership on the block in the neighborhood, and so I think block clubs is one way that we could, and those things are hard to take some time to organize and get started. But as I said, we don't have a lot of time, but we do have some time. We have months and years ahead of us to do this, and